Congratulations! You are now the proud owner of a brand new sourdough starter. This means that it's time for you to learn how to feed your starter so that you can continue to watch it come to life and grow. And luckily, the process of feeding is rather simple. Every 12 hours over the next 7 days, you simply just need to add some more flour and water to your starter. Give it a good stir to oxygenate, and you're done. Here's the schedule and outline in more detail. Days 1 to 3. Before we begin, I must clarify that the feeding process from days 1 to 3 does include the day that you began. So, to clarify, day 1 is indeed the same day that you began your starter, just 12 hours later as already mentioned. So, throughout days 1 to 3, every 12 hours simply just add another half cup of flour and water to your starter and give it a good stir to hydrate and oxygenate, as a well-oxygenated stir does encourage more natural yeast to develop within your dough to better help your bread rise into some fluffy deliciousness upon baking. And who doesn't want some springy delicious bread, right? Now throughout this process, the consistency you're aiming for is a semi-thick, gooey texture as you see here. However, I have noticed that depending on the type of flour that you use or the pace of fermentation that your starter is taking on, you may need to modify water ratios as you progress past day 3. But for now, this half and half ratio should do the trick. Days 4 to 7. Congratulations! You are now halfway to some delicious buttery soaked bread. Or perhaps you prefer some cream cheese. Well, that doesn't matter. What does matter now is finishing this process of feeding your starter properly so you can soon enjoy your sourdough however you do like best. So to begin, remember that secondary jar mentioned at the beginning of this series? Well, it's finally time to use it to resolve the issue of a soon-to-be overflowing jar and messy counter. So before each feeding, make sure to transfer out a few cups from your main jar into this backup jar to maintain plenty of headroom for your dough to safely rise and to make room for all the future feedings. Now don't worry about feeding this secondary jar, just keep adding to it from your main jar during feedings and give it a good stir while you're at it. Next, now is the time that your delicate eye begins to play a role here. In addition to following the instructions laid out so far, before each feeding, make sure to assess the soupiness or thickness of your starter and adjust water ratios accordingly. Make sure to stick with the half cup of flour, but when it comes to water, either add, reduce, or even eliminate it for a feeding or two until your starter has achieved this Goldilocks goopiness that you see here. And finally, we come to the easy part. It's now time to begin feeding your starter every 24 hours instead of 12. But hey, before you begin to celebrate your new opportunity to be lazy, you're not entirely off the hook here. For optimal results, you should still get in there and give your starter a good stir every 12 hours. This will help keep your starter oxygenated to maximize the final flavor and rise to your bread. And that's it. I hope you're excited as you're just days away from baking some tasty sourdough bread. Now keep in mind that at this point, if your starter looks a little bit different than mine or is not quite as expected, don't worry. This is an organic process with many variables. And by managing your flour to water ratios over the next few days, you should have no problems by day 7. And speaking of day 7, I look forward to seeing you there in the next video, where your patience will finally pay off and we can begin to start baking some nutritious and delicious sourdough bread. I'll see you there.